within good time. Willkommen, bienvenue on this warm, lovely, hot, sweltering day. And that actually plays part of what we're going to talk about today. This is Cladding Matters, the final of 4 property shows that we run, starting with Property Matters, following with Ipswich Magic on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we have Property Quorum, and today, Cladding Matters. And Cladding Matters isn't just about cladding, although we are focusing more on the after effects of people who don't want to take it all away. We'll talk about that in a second. And also we'll talk about the effects of when you wrap an entire building in cellophane in the name of keeping it all contained, and you turn it into a greenhouse, which is exactly what's going on. Steve Day, who's with us, thank goodness for that, is locked in, one might say, into Royal Artillery Quays, affected by Barratt Homes, who put on the cladding at the centre of the cladding scandal. Hamish McClay of Search Convey, sponsor and strong supporter for this cause. And myself, Gareth Wax of the Many Hats. But to start us off, as ever, Hamish McClay.
Very useful that our introductory song should include the word Barratt's. Because Barratt's have come up with another great idea, and Steve will tell us all about that. It's great, all these revelations that sort of come through. There seems to be a new one each week, which sort of, when you actually sort of think about how things were going to be sorted out, and all cladding issues would be resolved by 2029.
Hurrah!
Instead, a government, a certain housing minister was it who said that. But in reality, what we've got is a situation. We're getting partial remediation all over the place. And the saddest thing of the lot, actually, after we got I think the worst possibility is if you have to move out of your place because of the remediation or because it's unsafe. That is by far the worst. But running very close to it in terms of mindfulness and what it's doing to your actual sort of mind is a situation where you, not only is there just scaffolding up there, instead of that wonderful sort of other idea that could be used like mast climbers, we've actually sort of got this sort of shroud going all around it, and people are unable to open their windows fully. Well, you wouldn't want to, because you don't know what debris is going to float in if you did open it wide, but you can't open it wide anyway. So you're in that hothouse. So no escape. So what actually can you do to sort of keep? I don't know. It's a terrible, terrible thing. But it's not just us. There are other people, the press. In fact, it's very rare for the multimedia to actually get directly involved. It's good when they do, to create in the minds of other people the awareness of what is going on in some of these properties. And I think the great thing is the BBC were along to our Royal Artillery Quays. And we've just got a clip which actually sort of came from BBC a couple of days ago. And I'm sure we can have a little look at that before Steve gives us an explanation about what Barratt's have come up with, as well as a clever idea to not bother doing the remediation effectively.
All right, roll VT.
Tower block living brings its own challenges when it comes to the hot weather. Residents in these southeast London blocks have had the added complication of having their cladding removed.
As you can see, it's quite suffocating in here. We've only been here a short time and the temperature's already making us feel clammy. But it's not just the heat. You feel trapped because you're not able to open the windows.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, this is basically an appeal to Greenwich Council saying, the residents aren't able to open their doors. They've got 7 months of building works already under the belt, but another, 7 months to go. And we're saying, why should we have a partial remediation? Why should we not have everything done in the, so you don't have a prolonged period of suffering? Because if we have another year of remediation on top of it, because finally get everything out in order, the council's behaviour has prolonged the agony of being locked in your homes in these pressure cookers, and you know, everyone around the country is feeling the heat at the moment. But imagine if you can't open your doors and you can't open your windows, and also if you do, you know, even if you were allowed to, but they're sealed shut, you would get a load of bad stuff in your air because of all the building going on. It
feels almost like you're under siege in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it's really noisy. It's very difficult for people with young children because the drills wake them up. I've had horror stories of kids, you know, just being really scared by the noise because it shakes the wall. They're actually, you know, taking off a lot of the outside walls. So to do that, you need a certain level of machinery. And, you know, who knows what that does to the structural integrity, you know, and people make mistakes, you know. Is there going to be a big sort of saw going into your flat, you know, because they, you know, it's just very, very stressful. And but
It's
the thought
it's
prolonged.
the fear of the unknown, isn't it, that really gets you
Well,
going?
it's the thought of it being prolonged because the council are basically saying there's no evidence, and that means we're having to fight when the work could be being done. You know, all of this fight that you followed us on, you know, it's just delayed the full remediation being done. So as you can see in that picture, one of my neighbors, Izzy, is, you know, basically making it very clear that, you know, it's unacceptable. You know, and there's no compensation for this. Yeah, it's just, in our case, they've been proven to have built illegally, and yet, you know, there's no willingness to look at doing the right thing and taking those panels off. Anyway, we've got a little further with that story.
Well,
do you want to ask your question, Gareth? Or
well, yeah, I was going to say, we have it written in black and white that the council themselves back in the day admitted that it wasn't up to code. Then we have it from them that they now say they want to be neutral. Then they say, in fact, it was built up to code and there's nothing to see here. Move along, move along.
Yeah.
And we've got a QC, or not QC, sorry, KC, who, apologies, my lord, who oversaw the Grenfell inquiry, intimately involved, who has said, no, come on, guys, play fair. You come forward, state the truth. And they still persist. It strikes me that there's a certain amount of ostriching going on.
Well, yes, there is. And, you know, because of the situation, it's so intense in terms of what you see in that clip, you know, the building work and so on. There's a lot of residents that don't particularly want me to continue with the campaign. They want to believe that the work is going to be finished. And, you know, and this goes back to the council pushing the letters through the door, basically telling all my neighbours I've got it all wrong and that Barrett's done nothing wrong at the time of construction. They said there's no evidence and pushed that through every door at RAC, basically making me out to be a liar. And they put it on their website and they put it on their social media. Most bizarre, you would say, for a council just to pick on one individual in the borough.
It's also bizarre. It's even more bizarre. It's even more
They're
bizarre.
A liar, basically.
Well, that they deflected away from that by accusing you of harassment.
Yeah, and inciting violence towards women. And but that's in a sense, you know, how they've handled it. But now, you know, I'm getting warnings. So I put in a couple of messages on the WhatsApp group on West Thamesmead saying, look, I'm not allowed to email any councillor because the chief executive has written to me saying I'm not allowed to email any councillor on the matter. I'm not allowed to contact anyone individually because I'll be done for harassment, as the head of legal pointed out. So the only thing I can do now is post on a public forum to prove I'm not harassing anyone and not email any of them because I'm not allowed to. So, you know, and then I'm getting messages now saying you need to be very careful. They're building up a harassment case against you just for what I'm doing on the WhatsApp group. So they're clearly up to something. Or the person's got it wrong, of course, but they have mentioned harassment. So, you know, who knows? But I'm not allowed to contact my councillors in West Thamesmead and say this untrue position you've held for over a year, denying the evidence of all external defects and internal defects that are unlawful. I'm not allowed to talk to you about it. I'm not allowed to go through the complaints procedure because you closed it down at stage 1, which means it's an absurd complaint. Let's chuck that out. And I'm not allowed to go to the ombudsman because they won't look at it. I'm not allowed to go anywhere to discuss the lies of this council. And that's the sorry tale we're in. And if you add that to the London Fire Brigade stopping our external, our enforcement notices for all but one of their 8 buildings, so there's 7 without, and they don't particularly want to give an explanation as to why the other 7 notices won't be issued. And then you've got the national government introducing PAS, a watered down standard done by our friend Colin Todd of Poetry.
Isn't he Colin Todd?
Colin Todd.
Toddy. Toddy sounds good, actually. I quite like your Toddy
anyway,
from time to time.
I'm sure he has similar nicknames for us. But anyway, we have him, with his Christmas poem of delights, slagging me off for slagging off his watered down standard. But that's a national point of view. And now they want to, it's very interesting. It's come out from the BSR last week. That's the regulator for dangerous high-rise blocks of flats. They're saying we need to take this proportionality approach, not only for remediation of existing building, but now we need to be more proportionate about the building safety certificates too. And my worry is that it's going to be new buildings. We need to, yes, the builders, yes, they do their best to keep to the regulations of building and the law of this land on building.
It looks all right. We'll sign that off. It looks fine.
The building safety regulator is saying that you can take a proportional approach for these safety certificates. How long will it be for the proportionality that our friend Colin Todd is so famous for infects, and I use that word carefully, infects the new building industry as well? And you can see basically a standard for builders that wouldn't apply for anyone else. I mean, what if it, you go and say, I'm going to steal my neighbor's Porsche, and they say, oh, well, normally that's theft and you go down for 10 years, but we need to take a proportional approach. The prisons are a little overcrowded and it's your first offense, and maybe we'll let you off that one. Don't do it again. Now get out. That's what we're saying. But it's far worse in the building, because it's not those people that are taking the risk of living there. It's the poor people that buy those properties. And the state is allowing this. But anyway, let's go back to our friends old Barrett at Royal Artillery Keys. So, we've raised, our £4,300 collectively at RAC. We've had a fire engineer. He's condemned the panels because they would be condemned because they're banned on new tall buildings. So, wow, he's not going to say, oh, leave them on, is he? Unlike the Barrett fire engineer, of course, he thinks it's absolutely fine. Anyway, so now Barrett is saying, and I found this out by chance because my neighbour was talking to the concierge, and they told them that Barrett, considering that, yes, it'd be great to replace these dangerous firelighter panels that will kill everyone at RAC, but the only problem is they're going to be too heavy to replace. Oh, yes.
Let's tick them off. We've got pigeons.
That's from the building safety regulator. That's a national one.
On top of that, the panels are too heavy.
Yeah, they're too heavy. Can't replace them with non-combustible stuff. Too heavy, which is probably true. It is more heavy. But the thing is, with the level of distrust between us and Barrett, the fire engineer has written to me today to say, well, they need a structural engineer to say actually the load bearing of the structure wouldn't take the additional panels. And also we need to look at the products of these non-combustible panels and work out whether they really are impossible to install. And the other point is they've already put 2 panels in that are non-combustible anyway. That's in the plan. So did they take into account the huge weight of those panels? I doubt it. But anyway, we're going to ask them for whatever evidence they have to support this contention. But the great fight of the combustible panels on the 16-story fire stairs, packed full of fire-lighted material, I'm afraid continues. And it makes a farce of building safety that the only single escape stair, you know, in the context of Grenfell, with the fire brigade coming up, we've got the non-fire rated, jagged, toughened glass coming down because it's not fire rated, and all of these panels going up with the e-bikes and everything, and all these people coming down the staircase. You know, it's a sorry it's a sorry staircase, but it's a sorry tale. And you know, I think so. If you add it all together, what do you think? You have a council denying evidence exists. You've got a fire brigade refusing to issue enforcement notice. You've got a national government putting a watered down remediation stand. You've got a construction industry largely silent. You know, all the people in the construction industry, do you ever hear them calling out PAS? Do you ever, any trusted person that you guys know in the construction industry, do you hear them speaking up about the watered down remediation standard? No, they don't want to talk about that. They probably want to talk about health and safety on construction sites, or, you know, building issues. There's a great evil being done under the name of every construction industry company, everyone. They're silent on the watering down of remediation. That is well, it should be a crime. You know, it's lovely for them to have their construction jobs, but why are they silent? And also the fire engineering community. You know, why is it if you go to the builder, his fire engineer leaves it on, you go and get your own fire engineer, they say, take it off, that's a stupid idea. And the stuff is banned on new buildings. Why is this allowed to happen? And why are the fire engineering
the fire engineer working for the builders says, oh no, it should be fine. The independent fire engineer who doesn't have an axe to grind says, for goodness sake, get rid.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, as soon as that report is finalized, we're just working on it at the moment, I'll present that fire report to you and compare it against. It'd be a very interesting Cladding Matters, because you will see demonstrated the sheer recklessness of a fire engineer that basically, without any fire performance test evidence, without knowing what the product of these XPS panels is, but knowing their XPS, which is the second most combustible material in Europe, says without evidence it's fine to leave on. Whereas we'll look at what the other fire report says, and I won't say that what's in it yet, because it's going to be quite a surprise for everyone. But the conclusion is they're going to come off. But the actual reasoning is brilliant, and you'll love it. And it's going to be an amazing Cladding Matters. But look at the whole thing. What is it summed up as? Post Grenfell, limit the fallback for the builders.
Absolutely. Try and prevent the builders from losing any money. Hamish, it's been a busy Cladding Matters today. A little bit of Steve on his orange box, which I'm glad to hear. But Hamish, would you care to take us home, please?
Well, I mean, it's great. Just out of interest, Steve, just a quick question. Do you have a copy of the Barrett's fire engineer? What his report was? Have you got a copy of that?
Yeah. We'll do
magic. I shall look forward to that, because these comparisons are absolutely sort of great.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Alongside,
and what you see is the watered down standard PAS in, you know, maybe we'll get out a certain musical version of the poem to end that Cladding Matters, because it's going to be a good
perfect.
Because it shows what the author of the standard that allows the critical difference in these two reports, what his view of me as a campaigner is, and anyone in my situation that's desperately worried about building safety. So there you go.
We actually have sort of two separate situations here, in a way, which combine together. What we have, of course, is what the builders are saying, what's being said outside of the Greenwich Council area. There's so much going on. And we've seen in so many sort of publications the damning of the situation that's actually sort of going on. And we have, in contrast to that, a council that still continues to admit to the fact that what information they gave about sort of saying this property, there weren't any challenges. Well, these properties, there were no challenges at all. There was nothing against them when they were actually sort of built in the early noughties. And so we've got those two together. And the sad, and Steve did just speak upon it briefly, because the council have sat in that position, it is preventing the appropriate remediation and safety of the people actually within the building. And nobody has yet explained how they can actually come out with this particular statement. And I can't remember what was the final thing they said about it. It was ambiguous, something like that.
Well, that's right. I mean, we looked at Stephanie Barwiser's comment, the Grenfell inquiry case. She said it's just not. It's not even arguable that it's ambiguous. It said there is no.
It's as clear as the nose on my face, which is blooming clear.
And you guys, just to say thank you both for sticking with this shocking story with the council, because remember this was back in May. Not last May, but a year back from last May. We've been banging on about the no evidence position. And the fact that it's nearly a year and a half now of downright untruthful, dishonest council position, and look at the refusal to correct it, the attacks on me and the residents, the publicity, all of that. We looked at the Hillsborough law. I mean, I just wanted to say that we even had some great news on that. The Hillsborough law is going to be approved by MPs this coming week.
It's been a long time coming.
So, there's a chance that by pushing, and this is Councillor Taggart-Rye and Councillor Okereke, the leader, and the official Jamie Carswell, the Deputy Chief Executive, there's a chance that they have actually done enough to warrant a criminal investigation for 2 years in prison, because they have what the law says: if you as a public official push and mislead the public with an official position, which they've done, and it's a serious enough issue. Well, the deaths of 1,000 people probably is.
At the moment, they're going through advisory process with regards to retrospective applications.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be. This is the great thing. I just have to ask them, will you retract your position after the law has passed? They either are silent, like they love to do, or they say something which says we keep to our position. They're guilty the minute they do that, and that's prospective, not retrospective.
Just can I ask the question, Steve?
Yeah.
When this law comes out, how are you going to contact them? You're not allowed to email them. Presumably, you're not allowed to phone them.
I might not be, but if we were going to,
I will see them. I will ask them.
We would have a test case, and I think we probably should, because I feel so strongly that public officials are allowed to lie about the lie, exhaust all official channels of complaint to shut it all down, and then cause me reputational harm. I think if that is how the country allows their public officials to operate, then if the law comes out and I got cast iron evidence, I have a duty as a member of society to say no. There's a law now. You're going to be at risk of prison if you do this. And yes, I will have my lawyers write to them, and we'll have a test case of this new law. And remember, the horrors of Hillsborough, the fact that the police covered it all up and lied about the poor people that are protesting and blamed them for the deaths, and found lie after lie. The fact is, if they allow Greenwich Council to wriggle out of this, then politically it's very dangerous, because that makes a mockery of the law. And because of Grenfell and the links to, building safety cover-ups and things like that, I think politically, even if we have a bent judge, I think it's going to be very difficult for the government to say, oh, well, it's fine for this council to get away with these lies about the building safety. So now I actually think they could be in serious trouble. And if I were them, and remember, we always are open to the council coming on. If you're listening, any member of the council or councillor,
right to
for
reply.
goodness sake, don't let it get to the point where I have to do a private prosecution for 3 members of the council because you've lied your heads off and refused to correct it for over 2 years by that point. Is it really worth Anthony Okereke's ego?
Well, we'll see. And thanks once again to everyone watching. Thank you, Hamish McClay, for having set this up in the first place. Steve Day, for what can only be described as an ongoing odyssey of a saga.
Yes.
It's approaching approaching the complexities of the Iliad. This is. Until next week, please, everybody, please wear sunscreen, keep hydrated, look after your mental health, and stay sane until next week's exciting episode of Cladding Matters. Until then, bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
There's a tale about some folks with hammers and some nails. They'll polish through the moon